Good morning, Ways and Means Committee. Today is Friday, February 7th. We are going to begin our morning hearing about H-115. And then there is a Republican caucus, and so we are going to take up H-85 another day. Please come back promptly after the floor as we're continuing testimony on some of our questions about the administration's foundation formula proposal with APA. And then at lunchtime, there is the first in our 4-part series on a tax workshop. It's going to start with principles of a quality tax system. That's in room 11. Really encourage folks to go. Partly, you've heard the presentation already. It's nice to reinforce it, but it's also really helpful for you all to see which of your colleagues are interested in this. In the context of your tax buddy system, and sort of making connections with other folks in the building who are interested in the work of our committee. And with that, Representative Boslin, would you like to join us?
So, hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Boslin. I'm a representative for the Wyndham 3 district, which includes Westminster, Rockingham, and Brookline. And I'm going to talk to you today about a very short form bill, but a bill that's about a really important topic. And I actually brought along a constituent of mine who inspired this bill. So you can go to the first slide. The first slide basically says the bill's purpose is to provide tax relief to victims of financial scams. So we have a problem here in Vermont and across the US where people end up getting scammed. Often it starts out with a cyber connection. Somebody contacts you by email or through social media, but it can also be by phone and through other strategies. And we have a number of individuals, particularly seniors, who have been scammed out of their retirement funds. And what my particular bill addresses is the fact that after people are scammed out of their funds, then the state and the federal government charge taxes on that money that the individuals no longer have. And this is really a problem for our seniors. We can go ahead and do the next slide. So as I mentioned, I do have a particular constituent who inspired my awareness around this issue. And I'm going to have her speak with you directly after I do my short presentation. But I did just want to mention that really, we have an opportunity as legislators to aid Vermonters through providing some relief when this very difficult situation happens. And it would be up to you on this committee to figure out the details of what that would look like. But as you'll find out when you hear her story, it not only is difficult to try and pay thousands of dollars in taxes on money that you don't have, which you were counting on for your retirement, but it also has other impacts. For example, it increases the rate you pay to Medicare every month. It can change your property tax refund rate. And so this is really hard for our seniors who've been saving up for a long, long time and suddenly are finding themselves in a very difficult position. Next slide. So with an aging population, Vermont, I believe, has, it goes back and forth, but I believe we have the second oldest population in the US and getting older every day. We are likely to continue to have this be a growing problem. Just within the last couple of weeks, 7 Days did a feature on this issue, and there's an article I have a link to at the end of the slideshow that that mentions that there were 150 Vermonters that were scammed out of close to $5 million in 2023, and this is a continuing problem. So for those 150 Vermonters, one of whom is my constituent, there isn't a lot of relief for them. I know my constituent has spent hours and hours trying to address what can she do about these situations, and there hasn't been an easy answer. And in terms of AI and other kinds of advances in technology, it's getting more and more complicated. The sophisticated kinds of strategies people use to trick you out of your money are very complicated and very, it's hard to know what is real and what isn't real. Okay, we can go to the last one. Yep.
No, sorry, it's just like the glare.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think I'm just going to watch it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when retirement accounts are liquidated, victims not only lose their funds, but then they end up owing taxes on this money that has been stolen from them. The scams are more sophisticated. I mentioned there's very little in terms of state and federal support to help with these kind of situations. I did want to mention that we have been in touch with the federal delegation, and both the Senate and the House on the federal level are introducing legislation to address this same issue. But I personally am not holding my breath that that's going to be resolved anytime soon, and I'm hoping Vermont can address that further. And then the final thing I was just going to say, and again, I will let my constituent talk more to this particular issue, but once it appears that a retiree or a person who's been scammed has accessed these funds that have been stolen from them, this can cause all kinds of different other kinds of problems for them. So like in my constituent's case, her Medicare rate raised over $400 a month because it looked like she had all this money that was stolen from her. So this is a huge problem, and we really need to figure out what can we do to help our seniors. We're not talking about thousands of seniors, but we're talking about over 100 every year. And in terms of trying to support our individuals, I hope that we can do something about this situation. The final slide is just some resources of articles. Some of them are Vermont specific, some of them are national, but both of them are from the last couple of years that sort of look into what are the kinds of scenarios that entrap people and what are the kinds of challenges that impact individuals. So I encourage you, if you have a chance, to look at those later. So that's all I have for my introduction.
Thank you very much. Do you want to stay there while we speak to?
Sure.
Ms. Balakrishnan, did I get that?
Balakrishnan.
Oh, so close. Sorry about that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I just want to say, particularly, I want to address one of the points that Michelle made about elders being scammed, and that is, of course, true. But although I'm not familiar with Zoom, and I am a selective consumer of technology, I did my entire doctoral dissertation where I wrote the code. I did all of the set up the electronics and everything. So I am comfortable with tech. I just choose what I want. And so when this happened, I was not a naive user of the internet, nor was I a risky user. And essentially, the story that happened was that on August 1st of 2023, and I'm interested to see that Michelle says there were 150 cases in that year. So I was one of them. That essentially I got a letter that seemed to come from the president of the Vermont State Employees Credit Union, an email saying somebody's been trying to access your funds this morning, early morning. Did you try to access it? And, we are thinking that one of our people, divulged your information. And it was all orchestrated alongside of that by someone calling me saying they were a Microsoft techie saying all your devices are tracked to Beijing, China and people are trying to hijack your funds to do child pornography. And so the issue is not so much that, maybe I went to look for some easy way I was actually searching for a switch on my computer, for one of my heaters when all this happened. Anyway, from August 1st to about maybe the 25th or September or so was the loneliest, most painful time of my life, because the way these guys had arranged it, first of all, they told me something terrible was going to be, my money was going, but it was going to go to do something terrible. And they had different people playing. One was the pretend bank's fraud officer, and the email said, this person will be contacting you. By the way, the email came from Robert Miller, who is genuinely president of VSCCU, except it wasn't from him. They just used his name. And so also he said, so-and-so will call you, and please do whatever they say we want to protect your money. And then she calls, and then she says, I'm going to set you up with DOJ, and the lawyer will help you through all of this. And this is already reported to FBI and FTC. And we want to safeguard your money and make sure it doesn't get taken away. So, when this lawyer guy called me on my landline phone in Vermont on my phone, it displayed as United States government. So there was no way for me to say that that's a fraud. And when I eventually called them, it was indeed the DOJ's phone number, except they said this is only a call-in number. If somebody calls out from here, that would be a fraud. How was I to know? So this is a very high, sophisticated kind of a crime. And as Michelle pointed out, yes, I have lost I lost the money, but as a consequence, I look really rich. So I didn't get any property tax refund for 2024 from the state of Vermont. And Medicare has assessed me higher premiums for this year. I'm appealing it, and they are sympathetic, but everybody's saying there is no law. We wish that one of the first people I talked to actually after this happened was someone in Vermont State Department, a woman who was very nice, and she said, we would like to help you, but there is no law that helps us do this. And so I reached out not only to Michelle and Leslie and my two senators stateside, but I also wrote to Peter Welch's office, Becca Balint, and Bernie Sanders. And I heard back from Welch's office and also from Becca Balint. And they told me that they were co-sponsoring, as a result of this, that they were co-sponsoring bills that were being put forward that were apparently, there was protection at the federal level for people who had been scammed, that they could take tax deductions or exemptions for this sort of thing until 2017, when the new Trump, well, I call it the Trump law because he was president, and that when that bill was written, they removed these protections, which was supposed to sunset at the end of this year. However, we have the same administration back. So federally, it doesn't look like, though you would think this is a nonpartisan, because the crooks aren't asking what party I belong to. And I belong to no party, to be honest. I am who I am. That's all. But, a Republican can get scammed just as good as a Democrat or anybody else. And so I will write back again to ask them if they will still pursue it. But, the hopes are not high. I am encouraged that you all are interested in listening to this and doing something about this. I sure hope if it doesn't help me, it helps people who there will be more people scammed, and they should not have to do this. And, not many people might have had the same determination. I felt it was my civic duty to pursue it and put it out there for people to see. I'm a very private person, so I didn't want to go to the press, but I went to the politicians to say, here, do something about this. And I did my due diligence, and that's all I can do. And now it's in your hands.
Thank you very much. I'm extraordinarily sorry this happened to you. And we will work with the Office of the Tax Advocate and the Vermont Attorney General's office to see what we can do. So,
by the way, might I make one comment about the AG's office?
Absolutely.
So many people said to me, the bank's fraud officer, maybe you, Emily, wrote me and said this, and Michelle would have said this. Have you contacted the AG's office? I did, by email and phone. To date, I've not heard back from them.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Kimball.
This is about Krishnan. I just want to say I have a friend who was in the banking industry who lives in a town next to me who was similarly scammed. And she had been in banking for 30 years. So I spoke to her, and she had the same exact thing happen, and is now living on only her Social Security, which is not enough to support her expenses. So you are not alone. And I know that doesn't help much, but you're brave for stepping forward. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure this is other people's story as well. And, there is the loss of money, but there is the utter loss of trust.
Yeah.
There is a PTSD aspect to this, that happens to people. And when I even went to report to the police, which, after I met with my lawyer and said, you've been scammed, go to Brattleboro Police and talk to them. there I was in the police station, and the officer came out, and I said to him, as I talked to you, I'm wondering, are you real or are you fake? You know, so this poison that gets into our heads, I have had to work actively to detox myself of that. And I can, at 78 years of age, I can say to you that I have met more people who were strangers who helped me than these 3 strangers who took things from me. 3 people scammed me. Tens of thousands of people that I have run into, just seen here and there. I came into this country with $8 in my hands from India in 1973. Not as a refugee or anything. My life, I married somebody from here and I came. Wives do that. But anyway, I have put my life together here. At the university, when I studied, there were advisors and professors who helped me. Everywhere, people who didn't know me from Adam helped me. So I have to hold that goodness against the badness of these 3 people, or it poisons my life forever. I won't let them do that to me.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Balakrishnan. Really appreciate you, and we will do our very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please keep me informed.
We will, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Folks, we are done.